The prairie stretched wide and endless beneath the early morning sky, painted in shades of gold and pale blue. For most men, the emptiness would have felt heavy. For Ethan Cole, it felt like home. He had lived alone on that stretch of New Mexico prairie for nearly 15 years. Long enough that the land seemed to recognize him, the wind easing when he rode out at dawn, the horses calming at the sound of his voice, the creak of the old ranch house settling into a familiar rhythm each night. Ethan rose before the sun, as he always did. He pulled on his worn boots, the leather soft from years of use, and stepped onto the porch. The air was cool, carrying the scent of dust and sage. In the distance, his cattle moved slowly, dark shapes against the pale grass. This life was quiet. Deliberately so. Years ago, Ethan had learned what noise could take from a man. Loss didn't always come with shouting or gunfire. Sometimes it came quietly, slipping into your home and leaving it hollow. After burying his wife and child within the same cruel winter, Ethan had sold what little he had left in town and ridden west until there was nothing but land and sky. Here, no one asked questions. No one expected smiles. The prairie asked only for work, and Ethan gave it everything he had. He spent his mornings mending fences, his afternoons breaking young horses, and his evenings repairing tools by lamplight. He spoke rarely, mostly to the animals. They listened better than people ever had. The nearby town of Red Willow lay a day's ride away. Ethan went there once a month, sometimes less, just enough to trade for supplies. Folks there knew him as the quiet rancher who paid in cash and left before sunset. They didn't pry, and he didn't linger. That morning, as the sun climbed higher, Ethan saddled his horse, Ranger, and rode the eastern boundary of his land. A section of fence near the old cottonwoods had fallen again, likely pushed down by wandering cattle or wild horses. As he dismounted, something caught his eye near the dry creek bed. Tracks. They weren't animal tracks. Too light. Too careful. Ethan crouched, studying the ground. Bare footprints, small ones, pressed into the dust. Fresh. A frown creased his weathered face. No one passed through this land anymore. The trails had dried up years ago, ever since the relocation camps were cleared and the railroad shifted south. He followed the tracks slowly, his hand resting near the knife at his belt. The prints led toward the cottonwoods, where shade gathered thickly even in the heat. Then he heard it. A sound so faint it nearly vanished beneath the wind. A breath. Or a whisper. Hello. Ethan called, his voice rough from disuse. Silence answered. He stepped closer, parting the tall grass near the trees. That was when he saw her. She sat curled against the trunk of a cottonwood, dark hair tangled and dusty, her clothes worn thin and torn in places. Her skin was sun-browned, her face sharp with hunger and exhaustion. When she looked up at him, her eyes widened, not with fear, but with a quiet, guarded alertness. She didn't run. She didn't speak. They stared at each other, two souls frozen in the vast emptiness of the prairie. Ethan lowered his hand slowly, stepping back to give her space. I'm not here to hurt you, he said gently. The woman studied him for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely stronger than the wind, she spoke. I thought everyone left. Something tightened in Ethan's chest. He glanced toward the horizon, where the land rolled endlessly under the sun. He had thought the same thing, for years. The woman did not move. She remained seated against the cottonwood, her eyes never leaving Ethan's face. Up close, he could see how thin she was. Hunger had hollowed her cheeks, and her hands, clutched tightly in her lap, were rough and trembling. Ethan stayed where he was. Out here, sudden movements could mean the difference between trust and fear. My name's Ethan, he said slowly. This land, it's mine. You're safe here. She swallowed, as if weighing each word. I didn't know anyone still lived this far out, she replied. Her voice carried an accent he recognized immediately, one he'd heard years ago when the government wagons came through. "Where did you come from?" he asked. Her gaze drifted past him, toward the open prairie. "From a place that doesn't exist anymore." Ethan nodded. He'd seen camps disappear overnight. People moved like shadows, leaving nothing but dust behind. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Just tired." That was an understatement. Anyone surviving alone out here would be more than tired. Ethan glanced at the sun. It was already past noon. "I've got water and food at my ranch. If you want it." She hesitated. "I won't force you," he added quickly. "But you won't last long without help." Her jaw tightened. Pride, maybe. Or fear. Then she rose slowly to her feet, swaying for a moment before steadying herself against the tree. "I'm Aiyana," she said. The name lingered between them, soft and strong at the same time. Ethan offered his horse's reins. "You can ride." "I can walk," she replied, though her legs betrayed her with another slight tremor. He didn't argue. Instead, he walked beside her, matching his pace to hers. The prairie seemed quieter as they moved, as if the land itself was listening. At the ranch, Ethan led her inside the small wooden house. It was simple, one room, a rough table, a bed pushed against the wall, but it was clean. He poured water into a tin cup and handed it to her. She drank slowly, like someone who'd learned not to trust abundance. Ethan set bread and dried meat on the table. She stared at it for a long moment before sitting down. When she finally ate, it was careful and restrained, though hunger flickered in her eyes. "You've been alone a long time," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," she answered. "After they took everyone else. I hid. I thought they'd come back. They didn't." She shook her head. "They moved the camp east. I was sick. Left behind." The words were simple, but they hit Ethan harder than he expected. He knew that kind of abandonment. The kind that left you questioning whether the world even noticed your absence. "You can stay here," he said before thinking too much about it. Aiyana looked up sharply. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he replied. "It's work. I've got fences to mend. Horses to tend. If you're willing." She studied him, searching for something, pity, perhaps, or cruelty. She found neither. Only tired honesty. "I can work," she said. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in deep oranges and reds, Aiyana stood on the porch beside Ethan. The land stretched endlessly before them, quiet and vast. "This place," she murmured. "It's empty." Ethan shook his head. "Not empty. Just waiting." She looked at him then, really looked at him. Not as a stranger. Not as a threat. As the stars began to appear, something shifted between them, subtle, fragile, but real. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel the weight of the silence so heavily. And for the first time since being left behind, Aiyana felt seen. Aiyana rose early, just as Ethan did, though she never said why. She moved through the ranch with cautious purpose, learning its patterns the way one learns the moods of a living thing. She helped mend fences, gathered firewood, and learned the names of Ethan's horses, spoken softly, as if each name carried weight. Ethan watched her from a distance at first. Not out of suspicion, but respect. Trust, he knew, grew best when left undisturbed. One afternoon, as they worked side by side repairing a broken corral, a sudden noise startled the horses. Aiyana stiffened instantly, her hands clenching as if bracing for something unseen. "It's all right," Ethan said gently. "Just the wind." She nodded, but her eyes remained distant long after the horses calmed. That evening, she spoke more than she had since arriving. "When they came for us," she said quietly as she stirred a pot over the fire, "they said it was temporary. That we'd be safer elsewhere. Ethan leaned against the doorway, listening. My father didn't believe them, she continued. He hid us for weeks. When they found us, he told me to run. Her voice faltered, but she went on. I ran until I couldn't anymore. Ethan felt something twist deep inside him. He didn't interrupt. Some stories needed space. I waited for him, she finished. He never came. The fire crackled softly between them. You didn't deserve that, Ethan said at last. Aiyana looked at him, surprised. No one had ever said that before. The next day, Ethan decided to teach her how to ride properly. She'd ridden before, but never freely, never by choice. As he helped her onto Ranger, their hands brushed briefly. Both noticed. Neither spoke of it. Hold steady, he instructed. Let the horse feel your calm. She smiled faintly. I don't feel calm. That's all right, he replied. Neither do most folks. Horses don't need perfection. As they rode across the open prairie, Aiyana's posture relaxed, her movements growing more confident. The wind caught her hair, and for a moment, Ethan saw something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. But peace never lasted long in the west. A few days later, dust rose on the horizon. Riders. Ethan stiffened. Stay inside, he told Aiyana firmly. 3 men from Red Willow rode up, their faces hard with suspicion. One of them glanced past Ethan toward the house. Didn't expect company out here, the man said. Ethan met his gaze evenly. She's with me. The men exchanged looks. One smirked. Town's been asking questions. Ethan stepped forward slightly. This is my land. You've got no reason to be here. After a tense moment, the riders turned back, leaving behind silence and unease. That night, Aiyana couldn't sleep. They'll come back, she said quietly. Not without reason, Ethan replied. And I won't give them one. She studied him in the dim lamplight. Why are you helping me? The question hung heavy. Ethan hesitated, then spoke truthfully. Because I know what it's like to be left behind. Something unspoken passed between them then, an understanding deeper than words. Outside, the prairie stretched endlessly, holding their shared silence like a promise. The days that followed were filled with a restless kind of tension. Every distant hoofbeat, every dust cloud on the horizon, made Ethan's chest tighten. He had fought wild horses and harsh winters, but protecting Aiyana from the people who sought to take her was a fight unlike any other. Aiyana worked quietly by the barn, brushing down Ranger while the sun spilled across the prairie. She had grown stronger in the past few weeks, her movements confident and assured. Yet there were moments when her gaze drifted east, toward the distant hills where the lawmen and townsfolk lingered in her memory. You worry too much, she said softly, her voice carrying just enough teasing to mask the fear Ethan had seen in her eyes. I've fought long enough to know when trouble is coming, he replied. His gaze lingered on her, the way the sun caught the strands of her hair. And I don't plan on letting anyone take you from here. Aiyana looked down, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's not just them. It's me. Ethan stepped closer, his shadow stretching across the dirt. It's not your fault. You survived, that's all that matters. She finally met his eyes, and in that glance, he saw something fragile yet unyielding, the courage to trust, and the fear that it might break. The night came swiftly, as it always did on the prairie. They sat together on the porch, watching the sky turn from gold to deep indigo, stars appearing one by one. Silence held them close, broken only by the whisper of wind through the tall grasses. I've never stayed in one place this long, Aiyana confessed. Not since everything happened. But here, with you, it feels like home. Ethan's hand found hers. He didn't pull back. Then don't run. Not tonight. Not ever. Her hand tightened around his. And if they come back? If the world keeps trying to take me away? He gave a small, wry smile, though his jaw remained tense. Then we fight. Together. Whatever comes, we face it. That's the choice a man makes when he cares about someone. The wind shifted. The soft whinny of Ranger sounded from the barn, reminding them of the life that had drawn them together. Ethan rose and offered her his hand. Come on. Let's ride before the sun fully sets. You'll feel alive again. Aiyana hesitated only a moment, then took his hand. Mounted side by side, they rode out across the prairie. The wide-open landscape stretched endlessly, golden grasses brushing against their legs, the horizon burning with the last light of day. For the first time since she had been left behind, Aiyana laughed freely. It was soft and musical, blending with the whistle of the wind. Ethan glanced at her, heart swelling with something he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just relief, it was hope. A hope built on trust, on shared moments, on the understanding that life could be more than survival. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows lengthened. He knew that the peace was temporary. There would be more obstacles, more dangers, and more difficult decisions ahead. The world beyond their prairie was still harsh, still unforgiving. Yet, riding side by side, they faced it together. And that, Ethan thought, was the bravest choice of all, to open your heart when everything else tells you to hide it. As the evening sky deepened into night, the prairie seemed to hold its breath with them. Somewhere in that vast openness, they found courage, not just for the present, but for whatever future the winds of the west might bring. For the first time in 15 long years, Ethan felt the weight of loneliness lift. And in that moment, he knew that no matter what came next, he would choose Aiyana every single time. The prairie dawn broke with a gentle hush, the sun spilling gold across the rolling hills. Ethan stood at the fence line, gazing east where the distant town of Red Willow lay beyond the horizon. He felt the weight of what had come before, the years of solitude, the hardships of the land, and now the responsibility of protecting Aiyana. She emerged from the house, carrying a small bundle of belongings she had gathered. Her dark hair fell loosely over her shoulders, framing a face that had grown both stronger and softer in the weeks she had spent on the ranch. When she met his eyes, she smiled, a quiet, unguarded smile that made his chest ache. I thought about leaving, she admitted, stepping closer. But I can't. Not when I've found this. She gestured toward the land, then at him. And you? Ethan took her hand, feeling the warmth and steady pulse beneath his fingers. You don't have to leave, he said simply. Not ever. This land, it's ours now, together. The wind stirred, lifting the grasses in waves, carrying with it a sense of freedom that neither had felt in years. Ethan led Aiyana to the barn, where Ranger waited. He had chosen the horse carefully when she arrived, sensing that this bond would matter more than any other. As they rode out together across the prairie, the morning light highlighted the contours of the hills, the gentle sway of wildflowers, and the endless sky above. With every stride of the horse, the weight of their past seemed to lift. Ethan glanced at Aiyana, she laughed softly, the sound mingling with the whispering wind. This is beautiful, she murmured, her eyes wide with wonder. I've never seen anything like this. It's home, Ethan said, his voice steady. For both of us. And we'll make sure it stays that way. The tranquility was broken only by the distant clatter of hooves, figures approaching fast from the east. Townsfolk, lawmen, and those who had doubted her presence. Ethan spurred Ranger forward, placing himself between Aiyana and the approaching riders. You'll have to go through me, he said, his jaw set, voice unwavering. She's not leaving. The riders slowed, hesitation flickering across their faces. Aiyana, standing tall beside Ethan, met the challenge in her gaze. For the first time, she was no longer the woman left behind. She was someone strong, resilient, and unafraid to claim her place in the world. After a tense moment, the riders nodded and turned back, their intent to challenge fading in the face of courage and unity. The prairie returned to its quiet state, the only sound the soft thud of hooves and the whispering wind. Ethan exhaled, feeling a deep, satisfying calm settle over him. He had fought for this moment, not with guns or anger, but with patience, trust, and love. Aiyana squeezed his hand, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had endured and everything they had yet to build together. As the sun climbed higher, painting the world in brilliant gold, Ethan and Aiyana rode across the open prairie, free from the shadows of the past. Each mile carried them farther from loss, farther from fear, and closer to the life they would create together. Back at the ranch, they tended to the horses, repaired fences, and shared small meals beneath the porch light. Every act, every shared glance, was a promise, unspoken, yet understood. A promise that no one could break, a promise that had survived the silence, the storms, and the solitude of the prairie. That night, they sat together under the stars. The vastness of the sky mirrored the endless possibilities before them. Ethan whispered softly, "This is only the beginning." Aiyana rested her head on his shoulder. "The beginning of what?" "Of us," he said. "Of a life where neither of us is left behind. Where trust, love, and hope ride free." The prairie stretched endlessly around them, bathed in silver moonlight. For Ethan and Aiyana, the world was no longer a place of abandonment. It was a place of choice, of courage, and of love earned through struggle and shared moments. And in that vast, open land, where promises rode free, they finally found what they had both been searching for, each other. The prairie no longer felt as quiet as it once had. Ethan noticed it first in the way Ranger twitched his ears at distant sounds, in how the cattle clustered closer to the fences at night. Even the wind seemed restless, carrying whispers of trouble across the land. Aiyana felt it too. She worked harder than ever, rising before dawn and staying busy until the sun dipped low, as if movement itself could keep the past from catching her. But some nights, Ethan heard her pacing the small house, her footsteps soft but unsteady. One morning, Ethan rode into Red Willow earlier than usual. Supplies were running low, and after the visit from the men, he wanted to know what the town was saying. The general store fell quiet when he entered. Eyes followed him. Not hostile, just curious. "Ethan," the storekeeper said cautiously. "Didn't expect to see you again so soon." "People asking questions about my ranch," Ethan replied evenly. The man sighed. "Word is there's a woman living with you. Some folks are concerned." "Concerned about what?" "About who she is." Ethan's jaw tightened. He paid for his supplies and left without another word, but the unease followed him all the way home. That evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, he found Aiyana standing near the fence line, staring east. "They know," she said quietly, without turning. Ethan dismounted. "They don't know anything that matters." She faced him then, her expression troubled. "I don't want to bring trouble to your land." "You didn't," he said firmly. "Trouble has a way of finding people whether they ask for it or not." Her shoulders slumped slightly. "If I leave?" "No," he interrupted. "You're not running again." The word surprised them both. Before she could respond, hoofbeats thundered in the distance. 3 riders approached fast, different men this time. One wore a badge pinned crookedly to his coat. "Afternoon," the lawman called. "We're looking for a woman matching a description." Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between them and the house. "You can turn around. This is official business," the lawman said. "She belongs to a relocation registry." Aiyana emerged from the house slowly, her chin lifted. "I don't belong to anyone." The air went still. The lawman studied her. "You're supposed to be east of here." "I was left behind," she said. "I survived." "That doesn't change the law." Ethan's voice cut sharp. "She stays." The men shifted uneasily. Finally, the lawman exhaled. "We'll be back." That night, the ranch felt smaller than it ever had. Aiyana sat at the table, hands folded tightly. They won't stop. I know, Ethan said. Silence settled between them, heavy with unspoken fear. I don't want you hurt because of me, she said softly. Ethan looked at her then, really looked at her. At the strength it had taken to survive alone. At the quiet kindness she brought into a life he'd built around solitude. You didn't ruin my peace, he said. You reminded me why it mattered. Her breath caught. For a moment, neither moved. Then, slowly, carefully, Ethan reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Outside, the prairie stretched on, vast and uncertain. But inside the small ranch house, something steady took root, stronger than fear, deeper than loneliness. And Ethan knew one thing for certain. This land would not take her from him without a fight.